These artists didn't just slap their name on gear, they rewrote the rules with it. Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear. So in the world of signature gear, there are a few items that we are going to discuss in this video that really actually genuinely change the game, whether that is value-wise, whether that is getting people to pick up a guitar and play. We will go over all the parameters and reasons why these 5 pieces of gear change the game. So number 1, we chose the Gibson Les Paul. Now, is the Gibson Les Paul a signature guitar? I see a lot of people arguing with me from time to time saying, that's not a signature item, it doesn't count anymore.
It literally has his signature on the headstock. That is his signature.
That is his signature and was this artist's guitar for a very long time.
Yeah.
Decades.
So
it's the Les Paul.
It is the signature guitar, if you ask me.
You know what? Hard to argue that. But it gets pretty weird when you have signature models
of signature models.
Or signature models of signature models of signature models.
Third-party checks.
Right? So you have a Gibson Les Paul
/
Peter Green Greenie Kirk Hammett model.
Right.
Like, what? But
that's pretty awesome.
But it starts with the Gibson Les Paul, released in 1952. Originally came with P90s, mahogany body, maple top, and came in gold because it looked expensive.
And I mean, those are cool. They had that trapeze bridge on them.
Yeah, which the first year it didn't really work, sorry, because they had to underwrap it and et cetera, but they figured it out eventually.
They kind of hit their stride in 54 or 5.
57 is where, you know, the 57, 58, 59s.
59, 60 is where you're going to sell it and retire.
Of course. You want a swimming pool.
Yeah.
But
like gold.
That's right.
Tea.
But Gibson Les Paul changed everything. Next to change the game for signature gear is the 5150 everything. The Eddie Van Halen line of amplifiers and instruments, beginning with the PV 5150. Yes, you could say that the Eddie Van Halen Kramer did a lot, but I don't think that was as much long-term impact.
I don't remember his name actually being on it or there being graphics involved. He was just
an endorsee.
Was it a pacer?
Yeah.
He played that pacer with the angled, you know, humbucker. It had the Floyd on it, but he was just like the world's most famous guitarist as an endorsee.
Right. So it was really the PV 5150 in 1992, 120 watt behemoth that, considering its features, was relatively budget minded, although it was still, upon release, $1,000, $999 in 1992, which was
4 times my rent that year.
That was a lot of money. You know, the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier debuted in 1992 as well for $1,200. But consider, in 1992 money, a Soldano SLO 100 was still, I think, $3,000, which was just a crazy amount of money to be paying for any amplifier. So the PV 5150 it created overnight a new genre of music. It was so heavy, 6 gain stages, and all those young punk kids were like, hey, this is really heavy. I'm gonna write some really aggressive music with this. And then
they were who's who of 90s metal bands.
And 2000s, right? Yeah. The metalcore scene alone, it was completely dependent on the 5150, one could argue, sonically.
And EVH as a brand, as a franchise or whatever, the Wolfgang guitar.
Still, right. Still, you have EVH, Fender-made EVH products that are still massive bang for your buck for the sound quality that you get. The 50 watt, the little tiny guys, the big behemoth, 120 watt amplifiers, they're all awesome, and they are not crazy money like some of its peers as well. The guitars are sick as well.
And as a tinkerer,
yeah,
like a well-documented tinkerer,
yeah,
he clearly was not a person who would just slap his name on any old whatever.
That's right.
Wow.
That's so on point. Yeah. Thanks, Eddie.
Okay.
Number 3 for game-changing signature products, the Tom Schultz Rockman. This is his pick. The Tom Schultz Rockman, I wouldn't have thought of. Brilliant,
I think a lot of people, it'll raise eyebrows, but check it out. As far as I know, first production headphone amplifier. And this is the way I learned how to play guitar, with headphones on. It's to this day how I get ready for tour. And over the last 25 years of heavy touring.
Do you remember how much those were in 1985, 86?
Oh, I mean, I think I probably traded a bong for mine.
Yeah, the fact that you could get a hold of something and use it so effectively, but also the hits on the radio at the time, you know, like Def Leppard and stuff, that's what they were using.
That's the sound.
Right. So that's really, really crazy that this thing that was, you know, $100 or $200 or whatever it was, you know, not the cost of a giant Marshall stack, was being used and on the radio.
And, you know, even with a limited feature set, really pretty flexible and responsive. Yeah. Like they're cool. You can run it as a headphone amplifier. I ran it into my PV Bandit 65 as an overdrive and had chorus. And I think it even has an echo on it. Like, you know, I'm talking about the Rockman. They have obviously
there was many versions.
A complement of rack gear, high-end rack gear.
Right.
This was more of a consumer kind of level.
Yes. Really revolutionary product.
To this day, like that, I mean, yeah.
Pretty tough to beat.
Modeler.
Yeah. Really, that was, yeah.
What was there? There was Sans Amp, right?
Yep, there was Sans Amp. All these were made filtering, basically, it was just filtering noise.
So amazing.
Yeah,
so,
really, really helped. Tom Schultz Rockman.
Tom Schultz Rockman.
All right.
Champion.
The next most game-changing piece of signature gear is the Ibanez Gem Series / RG, which kind of came out together, but it was Steve Vai's involvement with Ibanez that really birthed the Super Shredder as a production, streamlined, mainstream instrument as we know it today.
I didn't know that the Gem came before the RG. I had my timeline mixed up.
So the Gem was developed, obviously, as Steve Vai's signature guitar model. And at that time, Steve Vai was not the biggest guitarist on the planet, but I would argue he was the hottest.
The most talked about.
The most talked about. And he was seemingly everywhere. I mean, he was obviously in David Lee Roth's band, but he was also then would go on to do Whitesnake, his own solo stuff.
Yeah.
Flexible had come out several years prior in 1980. That was a massive independent success. Dude was hot and being used in movies, Crossroads, to do all the overdubs and things like that. So it was Steve that wanted the hyper cutaways, the Wizard, you know, the really flat, as we know it today, Wizard neck, the Floyd Rose.
The super recessed so he could pull up and go, you know.
Full floating, tremolo. No one was doing that on a production level at the time. Now, this was obviously birthed from all of the custom things that he had made from Jackson and a couple other people as well. Fun fact, he was a Jackson artist and in a couple of the ads before he went to Ibanez. But before that, he was with Carvin and had his custom greenie.
The floral thing also had a really nice inlay on it.
No one was doing that.
Not in a production guitar.
No. And the RG was simply a more budget-minded version of the Gem. No cutout, no nothing. It's just, you know, a couple of humbuckers, pickguard, a bright color. I am not an Ibanez guy at all, and I would love to get an RG 550. In my opinion, one of the finest RGs ever made.
I have a soft spot in my heart for the RG.
You mean a neon orange with a black pickguard?
Bright, banana yellow or whatever, you know, just like,
with a maple neck?
Fuchsia, whatever.
Yep.
I mean, Dave Navarro played one, and that's all you have to say. But then
How cool is that?
The list goes on.
Yes.
Right?
Fletcher from Pennywise, right? One of my personal guitar heroes. The guitar transcended genre pretty fast. And then you get the offshoots of like, you know, the later you get the Universe.
The Universe.
Horn picked up a couple of Universes in pawn
7-string.
shops, 7-string, and started creating a whole new genre of music. It was just, it goes on and on and on, but it starts with Steve Vai and the Ibanez Gem series in 1987. And last but not least, in our game-changing signature gear list, the Jim Root series of guitars and amplifiers, namely from Fender and Orange. In my opinion, Jim Root made what were considered kind of old guy guitars at the time and stoner rock / old guy amplifiers cool again.
Duff played a Jim Root signature telly in Loaded, and when he got it, I was like, really? And then I played it, and
Killer.
It's a killer guitar.
All of Jim's stuff is really indicative of his touring life, because I mean, you know, for a while he was in Stone Sour as well, so he was just gone for years and years and years, and the features that you would see on both the amplifiers and the guitars were really indicative of just someone who's out there working utilitarian instruments that had nothing that didn't belong on them, and they were all fucking awesome.
With the effort.
That's right. I dropped that bomb. Yeah. They were awesome. I love.
Means it.
That Orange No. 4 amplifier was so killer.
That thing was the 15-watt joint?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little lunchbox boy. My God.
Was there no metal bands playing? There were stoner metal bands like High on Fire.
Of course. The Sword.
Right.
But no one.
But not straight up like.
No one heavy wearing masks talking about Satan were playing Orange.
What about now?
You know what? I don't know.
What? There are a lot of mask bands now.
Well, certainly you see a lot of Orange cabs at least, right? Like he really got everyone thinking like, oh, Orange is the thing again. Because for a while they were not.
Right.
So yeah, Jim got everyone going, oh, Telecasters can be heavy and cool. And then the Strat would come out. It's like, oh my God. And then the Jazzmaster came out and I was like, okay, now I have to buy one.
What is his He has a Charvel now, right?
Yeah, which is basically kind of like a hot rodded, more 80s flavored version of his Fender guitars. You know, Charvel being owned by Fender.
SoCal.
Yeah. And that is our list of game-changing signature guitar gear. Do you have something that you would consider game-changing in the signature gear realm? Leave a comment down below, and while you're down there, please consider subscribing. And with that, you've been wonderful. I've been Fluff.
I've been Squires.
Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.